Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 8 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really awesome team built by DragonairJordan. You may recognize that name because we featured some of their teams on the channel before, so huge credits to them. Their Twitter is linked down in the description below, as well as a rental and a paste. I really wanted to feature this team because Mimikyu plus Calyrex-Ice is a very, very strong duo right now. It's really meta, and so you are going to run into this, especially if you're going up against high-level players. And so I wanted to feature this team so one, you could try it out yourself, and two, you can be better prepared for it. People have realized that Mimikyu is a really consistent Trick Room setter in the format, especially when you put a Mentor on it. Typically, people try to deny Trick Room by either KOing the Trick Room sweeper, or Trick Room setter, I should say, or taunting it. But with Mimikyu, you have Mentor and you have Disguise, so it's actually very difficult to taunt it, obviously, because Mentor just ignores the taunt. And then with Disguise, it's actually very difficult to pick up a KO onto Mimikyu. Mimikyu being Ghost type obviously helps as well, because you can't hit it with the Fake Out. And so the idea often is to set up Trick Room with Mimikyu, self-Shadow Sneak into Calyrex to activate that weakness policy, and then just sweep with Calyrex. Very much actually like the Calyrex Shadow Rider team that we were using previously, although this is a lot more defensive. We just featured weakness policy Calyrex Shadow. This is like the complete opposite end, right? Where you're using something slow and bulky rather than something a little bit fast and more offensive. So Mimikyu plus Calyrex, main combo here, but you also have Amoonguss and Incineroar. That's really just to help set up the Trick Room and disrupt your opponent. And then finally, the Tyranitar plus Dracozolt combination. We had actually used that combination on James Beck's team previously with that Ho-Oh team. I think it's still really good, and I still think like the Sandrush Dracozolt's kind of underplayed at the moment. So this is definitely something that you should look into. I love the Tyranitar set here, and it actually also reminds me a lot of James's team, where it has two special attacks in Dark Pulse and Focus Blast. Focus Blast is really interesting. I think a lot of people often don't expect that, but one of the reasons to run it is because there are a lot of physically oriented Pokemon in the format right now, so you can catch those Pokemon off guard, especially because if you're Dynamaxing Tyranitar, you're going to often lower their special defense with Max Darkness. That makes your Focus Blast even stronger later on. And just because of the number of Intimidates in the format, like Tyranitar, doesn't really like being intimidated or burned, and so the Dark Pulse and Focus Blast often can catch your opponents off guard, and like I mentioned, if you Dynamax Tyranitar, lowering your opponent's special defense can be really, really valuable via Max Darkness. You also have that Sandrush Dracozolt with the Assault Vest. I think this is just a really fun Pokemon because, you don't necessarily need to Dynamax it. It's a fantastic max option. Typically just able to outspeed most Pokemon in the format, deal large amounts of damage, but even if you don't max it, regular Bolt Beak can still do a lot of damage to most of the Pokemon in the format. So, yeah. I think the last thing I want to mention here is a really, really cool trick that you can do with Mimikyu and Calyrex. Now, you're probably not going to get this off most of the time, but when you think about how people approach Trick Room matchups, they typically want to protect a lot, right? And one thing that players often do is double protect their Pokemon on the last turn Trick Room or make a defensive switch out. If you have Mimikyu and regular Calyrex-Ice on the field, what you can do is actually click Trick Room with them on the last turn of Trick Room on both of the Pokemon. What that does is one of them reverses the Trick Room, and then the other Pokemon sets up the Trick Room again, meaning that you get a full 5 turns of Trick Room again afterwards. That often will be a game-winning play if you're ever in that position. It's pretty rare. I don't think it happens that frequently, but it's just something to note because, yeah, that's something that I think a lot, you don't see very often in VGC, especially because not a lot of teams actually carry Trick Room on both Pokemon. But I think it makes a lot of sense on this team especially, right? Because there are sometimes maybe you don't want to bring Mimikyu, and you can just lead Calyrex and Incineroar, for example, go fake out Trick Room immediately, and then just go Parting Shot, Dynamax Calyrex, and just sweep through. So one thing, that's just one play that you might want to look out for. Otherwise, I really like this team because you obviously have the Mimikyu Calyrex combo, Mimi, Calyrex, Amoonguss, Incineroar, very strong, but then you also have the Sand combination with T-Tar Dracozolt. And you can even go like T-Tar Dracozolt, apply a lot of early pressure, and then close out the game with Mimikyu Calyrex. Just like that Calyrex Shadow Rider team that we just featured, you don't need to necessarily Dynamax Calyrex-Ice all the time, right? In fact, sometimes it's even stronger when not Dynamax because Glacial Lance hits both Pokemon. And the cool thing about Calyrex, gets good type coverage, right? Most of the Pokemon are resisting that Glacial Lance. You can use that high horsepower to hit, whether it be Steel types or Fire types, for example. So that's one thing to note. There are a fair amount of max options. I think Zolt, T-Tar, and Calyrex are all good max options. Even this Mimikyu could theoretically Dynamax depending on the matchup. So you always want to keep your max options open and see what you're going up against. So yeah, once again, huge thank you to DragonairJordan for the team. Before we get started, today's episode is sponsored by Into the AM. They are a super awesome apparel company that makes really affordable and comfortable clothing. My favorite line of clothes from them is definitely their line of graphic tees. They've sent me a couple, and I've really fallen in love with them. This is one that I'm currently wearing. You can see on the screen as well as on the webcam. This is their Starfire tee, which just came out pretty recently. And Into the AM makes all kinds of awesome clothing. Their graphic tees are some of my favorites personally, and I've linked some of my favorites down in the description below. But they also have, you know, regular t-shirts, hoodies, and joggers as well. So big thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. As I've mentioned to you all before, I don't really take many sponsorships on this channel, and I would not try to sell you a product unless I personally believed in it and would use or wear the product, in this case myself. So big ups to Into the AM, and huge thank you to them for continuing to support this channel. They've been nothing but great to work with. You can go to intotheam.com/cybervgc for a instant 10% discount on the entire website. So feel free to use that link, check out you know, everything that they have, and if you want to see my favorite personal products from them, I've linked them down in the description below. Alright, getting into our first game of the day. Once again, huge thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring today's video, and thank you to you all as always for watching Road to Ranked. I hope you've been enjoying it, and I know I've been using a couple of repeat restricteds lately. I still want to try out every restricted Pokemon at some point in Series 8, but also wanted to feature some really interesting teams and some, you know, teams that are currently up to date in the metagame, so that's why I'm using this Calyrex Mimikyu combo. So, first game of the day, we're up against Sun. Groudon, Charizard, Whimsicott, Indeedee, Dusclops, and Glastrier. Calyrex is obviously good. They don't have great ice resistances. Their Glastrier is pretty scary. They have their own Trick Room, which is really interesting, as well as Tailwind, so two very different combos. You know, if they wanted to KO Mimikyu, like, you could lead, like, Whimsicott. We have Tyranitar and Dracozolt, which is really interesting. Man, I have no idea how I want to lead in this one. I would think the Trick Room route's best. So maybe we go just Incineroar, Mimikyu, Calyrex, and then Tyranitar. The thing is, I honestly really like Dracozolt here as well. But I'm going to try to go with the main core, which is Calyrex, Mimikyu in this game. We have our Incineroar to deal with their Glastrier, and Tyranitar is actually very good offensively into this matchup as well, and we're min-speed T-Tar, but their Glastrier is obviously something to potentially watch out for. They cut it pretty close on the timer there, but I think they got it in. However, if we see Groudon Charizard as a lead, then, you know, could think maybe they timed out there, but I don't think they did. So, yeah. As I mentioned, thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please share your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And, yeah, I think that Mimikyu plus Calyrex-Ice is just a really interesting duo right now, and there's so many different ways that you can run it at this time in the format, too. So, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to feature it here. They're going to go with Mimikyu plus Groudon, which I'm honestly okay with. I mean, the only problem here is, like, Groudon could Swords Dance. So, while you typically don't want to fake out something like in Dynamax, because we have Mental Orb on Mimikyu here, I don't care if you taunt me. So, I think it's actually better to just fake out Groudon here just to prevent a potential Swords Dance. Then what we can do the next turn is just Parting Shot with the, ooh, they're White Herb. White Herb is an item that's actually picked up a lot in usage. I know people are typically used to Citrus Berry, but White Herb, Wide Lens are a couple of items that players have also been running lately. So, I'm just going to go for Fake Out on Groudon and Trick Room here. If you, well, ooh, the only problem here is if you Dynamax and then you Moonblast Max Quick Mimikyu. I feel like that's, like, relatively unlikely, but if they find that play, props to them. I just think Swords Dance here feels pretty free from my opponent's end. Because if I just went Fake Out onto, okay, Whimsicott switches out, so this is already, oh, into Indeedee. Okay, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. That's still okay, but now you do get a guaranteed Swords Dance off if you want it, which is very scary. And they can redirect Shadow Sneaks away. That's a great play. Oh, but they just go for Precipice Blades. Okay. As long as it's not Swords Dance, that's fine. Instant gets one shot, but that's honestly not even that bad for us because it gives me a free switch in right now. The only thing is I can go into Calyrex, but obviously by going into Calyrex, my opponent can just, like, Dynamax. Well, are you going to Dynamax Groudon? That's also, by the way, one of the reasons why people are running Mentor, so that you can make a play like that. It may be better to go into T-Tar first. Then I can't activate the policy on this thing. What would they have in the back? Glastrier, potentially? If I go into Tyranitar, they can just click Precipice Blades. That might just pick up a double KO, honestly. So, I guess I have to go into Calyrex here. The thing is whether or not I still go for Shadow Sneak, because it seems like such a bad play, because my opponent can obviously just go for Follow Me. I could also just go for a Max Hailstorm right now, right? Max Hailstorm into Indeedee. I think I'm actually still going to self-Shadow Sneak, and while that seems like kind of a bad play, the reasoning is because I don't think I actually have a better play to go for right now on the Mimikyu anyway. So, sure I can play rough, but I think Indeedee probably faints from Hailstorm plus hail damage. Yeah. We have Tyranitar on the back. I mean, their Glastrier can definitely Dynamax against us, which is really scary. That's a really good turn 1 play on there, and switching in Indeedee just to deny the Fake Out. I really, really like that play by my opponent. Okay, they don't Dynamax. Oh, interesting. Groudon protects. That's actually really, really good for us, regardless of what Indeedee goes for here. And it didn't go for Follow Me, so I get the +2 boost immediately. Wow, that's amazing for us. That is really, really good. So let's see now. Are you Sash Indeedee? I think that's kind of unlikely because you have Whimsicott, but maybe you're eject button on Whimsicott instead. But they're not Sash Indeedee. Okay, that's good. The thing is that they obviously have Calyrex in the back, but I have a +3 Glastrier right now. The only downside is that I don't have a great way to hit the opposing Calyrex. I have Tyranitar. That's actually our best means. However, we know they have Whimsicott in the back. Whimsicott's completely useless, so their last Pokemon should definitely come out right now. If it's not Calyrex, I think they definitely lose this game. They need it to be Calyrex, or sorry, Glastrier. But I'd be shocked if they didn't bring Glastrier as their fourth. But Whimsicott comes back out, so I don't know. Maybe it is. That would be nuts. Either way, Hailstorm and a Groudon, very safe right now. They don't have a great switch in other than Glastrier, but Glastrier is not going to take a +3 Hailstorm super well, right? Let's see. 3 turns of Trick Room left. I think it's fine to just Hailstorm here into Groudon and just go for a play rough onto the Mimikyu. Or sorry, Whimsicott. I guess I could Swords Dance here instead, but I don't mind going for play rough. They're going to switch Groudon out. And they brought Charizard. Wow, okay. They go for Charm, but they set up Psychic Terrain. I think they forgot about that. Yeah, by not bringing Glastrier here, Calyrex-Ice just completely sweeps through. So, just as we use Calyrex Shadow with Weakness Policy, like now we got Calyrex-Ice to what, +4 attack in just 2 turns. So this is why Mimikyu plus Calyrex can be really strong. And that's why sometimes you want to just make safe plays, right? My opponent had the opportunity to Shadow Sneak, and this is actually perfect because a couple of days ago people were like, why are you worried about your opponent Sucker Punching when Psychic Terrain is up? And I might not have been clear enough, but in that episode I was referring to self-Sucker Punch, and as you can see, you can actually self-target yourself with priority attacks even if Psychic Terrain is up, so don't forget about that. That's one of the reasons why this combo is really, really strong. So Indeedee, of course, could have gone for Follow Me to redirect that turn, but they didn't, and as a result, we fully capitalize off that. Now, I wasn't that worried about Groudon because I knew the worst case scenario is what? Indeedee protects, and then Groudon goes for Max Flare, but then we change the weather into Hail. We have pretty good defense on Calyrex-Ice, so we should survive, right? And then once we survive, you just activate our Weakness Policy afterwards. The problem is if Indeedee protects, then the next turn you can redirect an attack away, so then I'd maybe have to protect Calyrex, play rough. Actually, Indeedee protect Max Flare would have been really bad for us, now that I think about it. So there's 2 turns of Trick Room left. We have 3 Pokemon left. Tyranitar's in the back. Having T-Tar in the back is obviously good. I think it's just Hailstorm here in a Groudon and play rough into Whimsicott. You need to double protect if you're my opponent with Groudon right now. That's your win condition, but they just end up forfeiting. Because actually, you can't even double protect. You have to double max guard, and then you just spend 2 turns maxing, right? So, in the end, like, this is what Calyrex-Ice and Calyrex Shadow can do when you run Weakness Policy. They can snowball the game so quickly because you can go from 0 to +3 special attack in just 1 turn, right? Activate the Weakness Policy and get a boost from your ability. So that's why this duo can be really, really strong. I think Mimikyu plus Calyrex-Ice may be a little bit more consistent than the Calyrex Shadow plus the Fling combinations that we had featured previously. But there is a lot of strength to this duo. So yeah, once again, like I mentioned, this is something that you should expect to see a lot in the upcoming weeks because a lot of players, especially high-level players, have been trying out different combinations around it. My opponent's team here is so cool. Sorry, I just wanted to compliment them on that because they have freaking Oranguru, Indeedee, the Galarian Articuno, Kommo-O, I mean, it's awesome. It's such a cool team. I always say this, but every time we go up against really cool teams like this, I don't mind losing because it's a win-win, right? We either win. I feel like I repeat this every time we go up against teams that seem really cool in team preview, but it's like we either win or we lose against something that's really cool and get to see, how a really cool team functions. I don't know what to expect here, to be honest. Solgaleo is obviously a very big threat to Calyrex, so we'll have to watch out for that. T-Tar plus Dracozolt is somewhat compelling here, but I don't want to activate a policy on the Solgaleo. Solgaleo actually seems really good here, because between Max Steel Spike and Max Quake, you should have coverage into my entire team. Yeah, I'm actually really nervous about that. We don't have Will-O-Wisp on Mimikyu. That would normally help us a little bit more in this position. How do I beat Solgaleo? I really don't know. Do they have a weakness policy set up is my other question here. I mean, I'm thinking Mimikyu, Amoonguss, Calyrex, T-Tar. I think this could have been a decent Dracozolt game, but the reality is that Dracozolt Max Quake doesn't do very much to Solgaleo. Here's what I'm curious about. Is it weakness policy or not? The other thing is it could definitely be Iron Ball on the Galarian Articuno because there's an Indeedee, so if you see that duel, like the Iron Ball not only slows you down, so if you set up Trick Room, that's great, but you also become grounded, which means you can take advantage of Psychic Terrain. So it's Solgaleo plus Indeedee. Okay. I mean, I can Trick Room here, right? But then what? Indeedee is definitely a pretty big threat to this. So actually, if you're looking for counters to Mimikyu and Amoonguss, like you should consider, counters to the Mimikyu plus Calyrex combination, Indeedee is actually pretty good because you can redirect those attacks away. The Shadow Sneaks away. The last game, like, we just got away with maybe slightly greedy play from my opponent, which is obviously great, but don't count on that happening all the time. Unless your Indeedee is faster than Solgaleo, like, you can't knock out Mimikyu here, right? So I honestly kind of want to Trick Room and Protect. I could just try to Spore here, but the thing is, if they KO Amoonguss, that's bad. So unless Indeedee is actually... Okay, wow. Really? That's great. They switch out into Oranguru. I'm very happy about that. Because here's what happens now. I just Spore consistently. This is why the Mimikyu is so strong once again. You just can't really deny that Trick Room on turn 1. Although I actually could have Spored here, but I thought it was likely Solgaleo Dynamaxes and then you double up onto the Amoonguss slot. Forcing Solgaleo out like that's honestly really good for us. Because the thing is, now I bring out Amoonguss, I have Amoonguss out, I can just Spore the Indeedee, which is great. And then you can't redirect Shadow Sneak away. If you can't redirect Shadow Sneak away, then Glastrier, I keep mixing up Glastrier and Calyrex. Calyrex can just kind of go to town. So, I'm honestly content to Swords Dance here and Spore. Actually, it might be better to just play rough. In case they get a one-turn Wake. Wait, why don't I just go into Tyranitar, actually? That seems like the best option. Tyranitar's so good here. Yeah, okay, let's do that instead. T-Tar's really good against my opponent's entire team. Like, I could even Dynamax it. In fact, I'm thinking I maybe should. No, but Calyrex-Ice, +3 attack. It's just so nice. Okay, they're not Goggles on Indeedee. That's good. I was slightly nervous about that. Oranguru can reverse Trick Room right now, though, which is definitely scary. That's actually definitely what's happening right now, so that's a nice play. Oh, wait, they don't. Wow. Oh, that's kind of a speedy Oranguru, then. Wow, I'm very surprised about that, but very happy about that, honestly. Are you Goggles on Oranguru? No, you're not. That was another thing I thought of because of the switch that they made turn 1. Do they have a Dark-type switch in? The only one is the Kommo-O. I don't know. It feels pretty free to just Dark Pulse here and Spore Oranguru. I think I'm content with that. I feel like there's very little downside here. They don't switch out. We get the Spore off. And I mean, this is why, like, Amoonguss answers are really important, right? Whether it be something with Goggles, something with, I guess not that many people are using Lum or Chesto in this format, but... Actually, let's see if this KOs. Ooh, it does not. Oh, actually, that's okay. If you KO Amoonguss, you give me a free switch-in. Actually, I would have preferred a free switch-in in that position, so... Okay. Because the downside is, like, my Trick Room is slowly expiring, right? Oh, but this is where I can make that double Trick Room play. Wait, that'd actually be so sick. But that would mean I need Mimikyu and Calyrex out on the field at the same time. Not sure I can really pull that off. How many turns of Trick Room do I have left? Only 2. That's not great. That is definitely not great. So maybe I should have Dynamaxed Tyranitar. Because, like, it looks like we're in a really good position, right? But... I'm not sure it's actually that amazing. Oranguru can reverse Trick Room right now. Max Darkness just to... kind of want to just Dark Pulse, and I don't think this is a KO on Oranguru, so I don't know if this was the best play. I'm doubling up on Oranguru, but I think this was slightly questionable. Oh, it's actually pretty good damage from Sludge Bombs. I would think Dark Pulse with Life Orb KOs here, but let's see. Okay, nice. Let's go, Special T-Tar. I don't care if Indeedee wakes up and KOs Amoonguss here. It just gives me a free switch into Calyrex, and honestly, that's totally fine for us. But they actually stay asleep, so lucky for us in sleep turns in this one. Okay, so we have an early 4-2 lead, but the thing is, my Pokemon are really slow. Their Solgaleo is still a really big problem, and it's unchecked. So, while it looks pretty good for us, this is often one pitfall you can fall into with Trick Room teams where you have a really early lead, but your opponent actually manages to stall out the Trick Room. So, because Dark Pulse actually didn't KO Indeedee, there was a good argument to make to actually Dynamax it in this game. Tyranitar. Okay, they have Tyranitar and Solgaleo. I mean, here you double protect, right? Yeah, this is still so far from over. You should just double protect in this position if you're my opponent. Ooh, but I have Regenerator on this thing. That's really interesting. So the thing is, I can Focus Blast into your T-Tar here. Switch out into Mimikyu. Or just Spore, use Spore from Amoonguss onto Solgaleo, but I think Solgaleo should protect here. Okay, I'm going to go for the Focus Blast, and I'm going to switch here, I think. I don't think I want to switch Calyrex, because that feels like it should be our max option. This feels like it should have been a win after the first couple turns, but I didn't play well enough to secure it. Because as soon as we get Spore off and they don't do any damage, like, it feels like we're in such a good position. But the thing is, their Solgaleo is so good against us right now. They're maxing? Oh, no. Okay. I feel like a max is really greedy there, because Amoonguss can just Spore either slot, but maybe it's... Are they maxing T-Tar? Oh, I like that a lot. Okay, so this will definitely be an interesting finish. Especially if they just attack with both Pokemon here. That would be a crazy good play on their end. Oh, they're fat? Wait. Are they also min speed? They're min speed and they win the speed tie and they don't protect with Solgaleo. Wait, did Trick Room end? Am I crazy here? No, it didn't end. Wow. What a read to not protect when I had the opportunity to Spore. That's rare, but it worked out perfectly for my opponent. I think it is kind of a greedy play because if you get Spored on your Maxmon, like you kind of just lose the game instantly. But the play they made actually probably just won them the game instantly. So kudos to them for finding it. That is really well done. Wait, we're min speed, right? I'm just double checking. Oh, we're not min speed. Wait, are we 63? I'm actually not 100% sure. They should win off. Oh, not necessarily. Well, I don't have a fighting type attack. They can just go for another max. You max darkness now. Okay, how do we claw? First of all, props to my opponent for finding that play because I thought it was like double protecting there was just super safe. But they probably thought I was going to double protect, so they were like, why don't I capitalize off it? I just didn't expect their T-Tar to outspeed us, but it makes sense because they are kind of a slow team with Trick Room, right? Which means our Calyrex actually should outspeed Tyranitar outside of Trick Room. Interesting. I want to max... What are the items here? Solgaleo's probably Policy, right? AV Tar? I don't think this is... I want to protect and Spore here into Solgaleo, because we have the Focus Sash on Amoonguss. But I think it's likely for them to double up onto Amoonguss in this position. So let's see. Okay. That guarantees that we get Spore off at least into Calyrex. That's actually really good for us, because this means we don't faint from... we don't faint. But also, wow, Max Flare Tyranitar. That's wild. Is it special or mixed, or is it just Fire Punch? It could just be Fire Punch, of course. They have one more max turn. I think I need at least a one-turn sleep on my opponent's Solgaleo here. Because I'm just going to max Quake here onto Solgaleo. Oh, sorry, not a one-turn sleep. Sorry, I need a 2 or a 3-turn sleep. I think it's just Max Quake and Rage Powder in this position. Because we win the game, basically, if we KO Solgaleo, they take 2 or 3 turns of sleep, and then Calyrex, you're going to activate Weakness Policy on Calyrex. I could have made a really like I could have Max Guard Spore, but I don't like that play. So Focus Sash is big here, and the fact that they actually Flare is even better for us. Although I guess maybe Rockfall wasn't going to KO at +1 anyway, so yeah. Alright, so let's see if we can pull off the comeback with Calyrex. Once again, really well done by my opponent to not protect on that. You know what? They're probably Assault Vest Tyranitar. That's my guess here, which explains the lack of a protect and them running Max Flare. Because I would think the policy is on Solgaleo, but maybe I'm wrong here. If it is AV, I mean, this is good that we get I don't know for a KO, but we weren't expecting a KO. It actually did a little more than expected. We need a 2 or 3 turn sleep on Solgaleo. If they wake up next turn, we lose, I think. And they are policy, so we definitely needed to stay asleep. Yeah, they go for Max Knuckle. That's fine. Because the thing is, I think I take a +2 crunch, right? So basically, the hope here is that Solgaleo stays asleep for another turn. I KO with Max Quake. I survive crunch and then KO you with the Max Quake in return. This is really close, though. I feel like AV Tyranitar is very likely here if you're running Flare, but maybe it's just Rockfall, Flare, Darkness, Protect. That also could work. I don't know what item you're running on T-Tar then, because Policy is obviously kind of the item you typically run on that Pokemon. Is there a merit to Hailstorming here? I should KO Tyranitar with the Max Quake anyway, especially because they're going to activate Policy. By Hailstorming here, I also set up the Hail. And I think Hailstorm into the Hail chip should KO Solgaleo and gives me a little bit of chip onto Tyranitar. And I'm just worried about +2 Fire Punch in Sun against Calyrex, so I'll go for Hailstorm. We need them to stay asleep with Solgaleo. Okay, they stay asleep, that's huge. We definitely got a little bit fortunate with sleep turns in this game. I just want to change the weather here, because they should activate our weakness policy one way or another. Oh, actually, that KOs Solgaleo anyway. Okay, good. Nice. So yeah, given that it KOs Solgaleo there, that's always the play, but the thing is we need the sleep turns to go our favor in this position anyway, so that's what we're hoping for. So we get that knockout, we're at +1 attack, and we just need to survive a +2 crunch or any other attack they throw our way right now. It is Fire Punch, and yeah, we're definitely surviving now. Okay, perfect. And now we're at +3. Wow, this was a crazy game, because it felt like we should have won after turn 2, but Tyranitar not picking up KOs was actually very, very bad for us. And then their Tyranitar outspeeding us before we could get an attack off against them was also very bad for us. But now we're at +3. +3 Hailstorm should just KO, and they can't KO us in return. So yeah, I think we're good here. So the thing is, I think if Sun is up and they crit the Fire Punch, we actually could lose there. So these are the small decisions you often want to think about in the end game, right? Whether it's worth it to Quake or Hailstorm, because typically, you know, you want to just reduce their chances of winning. And even if the Sun were up, Fire Punch wasn't KOing, but I was thinking maybe Sun +2 Fire Punch with the crit under Sun could KO. And so just like play against those options, right? In the end, there was actually really no reason to not go for Max Hailstorm there. I just wasn't sure if it would KO Solgaleo, but Calyrex-Ice is pretty strong anyway, so yeah. I'm going to turn on the light real quick, but we're going to get into the next one. Okay, we're back, and we can actually check our opponent's team here, so I wanted to walk you all through it, because I was very curious on the sets here. Slow Solgaleo with Sunsteel Strike, Wild Charge, Wild Guard, and Earthquake. I have to say, the sleep turns, it was AV Tyranitar, yeah, my suspicion was right there. AV T-Tar, 59 speed. Were we 60-something? Focus Sash, Indeedee, Throat Spray, Kommo-O, which is really cool. Yeah, it was Iron Ball Articuno, so that's what I mentioned in Team Preview. You should watch out for that when you see Articuno with Indeedee, and then Oranguru with Foul Play, Trick Room, Instruct, Brutal Swing. Yeah, this is actually speedier than I expected to be, which is interesting. So yeah, I think, I mean, in this one, like, I wanted the Indeedee to honestly KO the Amoonguss, because it actually would have accelerated the battle a little bit, because what we wanted was to basically get Calyrex-Ice in the ideal position, right? But by Indeedee not fainting, I didn't really want to switch out either. Like, that's always the awkward thing. Once you set up Trick Room, you have to make the decision, do I want to stay in, do I want to switch out? And in that one, it was kind of tough. So, yeah. But, I don't know. I think my opponent did a Good job stalling out my Trick Room. I didn't see that Tyranitar set coming, and I really should have. The thing is, even if like our Tyranitar got the Focus Blast off, the only thing it would have confirmed for me basically was the item. But this is why Focus Sash Amoonguss is really good, right? Us surviving and getting that Spore off basically saved us in that battle. So yeah. Okay, this is, I think, well, I was gonna say definitely a Mimikyu Calyrex game, but now that I see they have Dracozolt, or sorry, Lapras, maybe not actually. But Tyranitar is so bad here. They have Rillaboom, Zacian, and the Urshifu. And it's like, is Dracozolt good enough to justify it? I don't think so. So I think the correct approach here is to just try to go with Trick Room. We probably just use Spore to stop the Lapras and Zacian from doing too much. So I think this is just the standard 4, Mimikyu, Instinct, Calyrex, and Amoonguss. Sure, let's just go with Mimikyu and Instinct. I think that's fine, with Amoonguss and Calyrex in the back. I guess I should be thinking about leading Calyrex more, but it's just weak to a lot. You have a fair amount of flexibility on your Calyrex-Ice moveset. Actually, as I say that, I'm really curious what players are opting for right now, so let's take a look. Picolytics, which is by far the best resource if you're just looking for general information on how players are running Pokemon. So this is just showing me Glacial Lance, High Horsepower, Trick Room, Heavy Slam, Protect, Close Combat, Seed Bomb. Yeah, you have a fair amount of type coverage. Only 40% are running Protect, but that's because 17% are AV. Although that means a lot of non-Assault Vest Calyrexes are still not running Protect, which isn't super surprising. It's Whimsicott plus Lapras. I mean, this is fine, although I think in this position, if you're my opponent, what do you do? I think we just go for Fake Out Trick Room. It just doesn't feel great. Because the thing is, Instant here could Parting Shot. But if you Moonblast and Resonance Mimikyu, we should survive. Whimsicott will probably have Taunt as well, which means it taunts my Amoonguss, which is actually kind of a problem too. Because what I want to do is, instead of going for Fake Out, just Parting Shot here into Lapras. To give me a free switch into Calyrex-Ice. I'm going to play it safe here to guarantee Trick Room up, just because there is a small chance my opponent's Life Orb Lapras and you Moonblast Max Geyser into Mimikyu for a KO. And if Trick Room doesn't go up, I feel like we lose. So, risk versus reward-wise, I don't think it's worth it to go for Parting Shot. Because the thing is, after this turn, what I can do is just Shadow Sneak into Whimsicott, break the Focus Sash, Parting Shot into the Lapras, bring out Calyrex-Ice. Calyrex-Ice is still really good against my opponent's team. The only downside is whether or not I can get that weakness policy off. But with us having Incineroar, we could potentially go for Self-Flare Blitz. They actually have Protect on Whimsicott, so yeah. This is why I was saying, like, Parting Shot could have been pretty cool. But I just think risk versus reward-wise, it's really not worth it for Mimikyu to feint turn 1 should they be, like, super offensive. So I'll take this, right? Because I can still Shadow Sneak to break your Sash next turn. I can still Parting Shot here, so yeah. We'll Parting Shot into Lapras. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous about Fake Tears from Whimsicott, potentially. But as long as we get Trick Room up, it's not the end of the world, right? Let's say we Parting Shot into Lapras here, then what would we do? Probably bring out Calyrex-Ice. If you have Protect, you definitely have Tailwind, Moonblast, and then the 4th move is Filler, right? So Taunt, Fake Tears. I actually think Fake Tears is a decent possibility, considering that they have Zapdos on the team as well. Because Whimsicott Zapdos Fake Tear stuff is rather strong. The screens is scary. They also don't have AB, or sorry, what am I saying? Life Orb. So, Light Clay on Lapras, definitely a big possibility here. I think I'm going to sneak Whimsicott. You know, actually, I could pick up the KO right now into Whimsicott. I kind of like that. Unless Shadow Sneak plus Flare Blitz don't KO after screens are up. Because then I can bring in Amoonguss and Spore. Okay, let's go for that. I'm kind of down. My only fear here is like, oh, they switch into Zacian. Okay, I mean, that's not the end of the world. Getting a Flare Blitz into Zacian is always decent. And now you've switched out your main threat. Like, the thing is, if you KO the Instant here, that'd actually be really good for us, because then I get the Calyrex-Ice in. I can self-Shadow Sneak Calyrex-Ice, and then Max Quake into Zacian, and that also gets special defense boosts off. And then it feels like we're in a really commanding position. So, I'll take that. It's actually so much damage on the Zacian. So let's see who they go for the KO here. I would target Instant, just because, like, it does punish me for switching out here as well. Okay, they do target Instant. Please KO. Nice. Oh, that's actually really, really good for us. Okay. Yeah, I think we're actually in very, very good shape right now. Because the thing is, I now get Calyrex-Ice out, and we can just go to town with it. The one thing to watch out for in this game is falling behind too quickly and then losing to Parasol Lapras. Because with Zacian and Lapras, your goal often is to just pick up 2 knockouts and then set up Trick Room, right? Sorry, set up Parasong. Regardless here, you know, they've already taken 2 turns to Trick Room. I think +2 Max Quake still should KO Zacian, should it protect. So I'm just going to go for the Sneak and the Quake here. Actually, my only fear is that they switch out into Zapdos. But would you really have Zapdos as your last one? No way you bring Zapdos into this team. I have T-Tar, Zol, and Calyrex there. There's no way. So, if they did as a defensive switch-in, kudos to them. That is so well done on their end. But Zapdos looks so bad on paper in this matchup. I just don't think it makes much sense. So, I think we should get Calyrex to +3 this turn. You could always switch Zacian out into, like, Whimsicott here as well. But the fact they switched Whimsicott out was really good for us, and the fact we got that much damage on the Zacian was really good as well, because Zacian's goal typically is to destroy you outside of Trick Room, right? Trick Room is basically... Oh, no. Was that on my end? No. Oh, okay. Well. Guess it was just an internet problem from their end. Or maybe they just DC'd, but I like to have good faith in people. To be honest, I think we had that game won, more or less. We were in a really, really good spot, so yeah. But I'll talk a little about after this next game. Okay, last game of the day, Groudon, Venu. I feel like I've just had a lot more DCs lately, both on my end and my opponent's end, so hopefully that doesn't keep up. But, because I think that the game was still salvageable from their end for sure, but if they didn't have Zapdos in the back, I do think that it's really, really difficult for them to win, especially because I have Amoonguss in the back. But, yeah, I don't think it was over by any means, so that didn't feel like a Rage Quit DC. I didn't think it was just their internet dropping. So, shame we couldn't finish that one out. Okay, next game here, Groudon, Venu, Rotom, Zapdos, and Urshifu. Rotom Frost is really interesting there. I'm like trying to figure out what are you doing there. That's really interesting. And I know Charizard, but you have Groudon, Venu, which is really, really strong. I don't know. I feel like Zolt is really good here. And Calyrex doesn't... Well, it's not amazing, but it's not bad either. But they have Incin, which is already not fun to go up against. I could, as always, just lead Incineroar plus Mimikyu. Dragozolt's really bad against Groudon, right? Like, I feel like I don't know. It's, like, tempting, but Groudon's the main threat on my opponent's end. Okay, I'm gonna go with Mimikyu, Incin, Calyrex, and Amoonguss here. Yeah. Wait. I should have brought Tyranitar. I definitely should have brought Tyranitar. It's just actually so good offensively here. I think it's better than Amoonguss. I brought Amoonguss because, like, Spore is just, you've seen it, like, it be so good, but I think, like, we have enough offense between Calyrex and T-Tar that there was actually no reason for Amoonguss in this one. Maybe Amoonguss proves its worth, so we'll see. I'll give it a chance to shine. It is just Groudon, Venu. Okay. Groudon, Venu, Groudon, Venu, Groudon, Venu. I mean, Fake Out into Venu Trick Room is relatively safe here. The only downside... There's no way you max Venusaur here, right? The only way you prevent Trick Room from going up right now is Sleep Powder. Are you White Orb Groudon? That's the other question. Okay, they're not. Then you can't KO Mimikyu here if I Fake Out Venusaur. Because even if you max Venusaur... Yeah, a max into Groudon Precipice Blade shouldn't KO us. I think they're Swords Dancing here, but that's fine because I can just Parting Shot next turn. Okay. Oh, no. No, please don't flinch. That is the right play from their end to make, though. Because it's just so bad to... Trick Room's gonna go up anyways. Oh. I don't want to say that loses us the game, but... They had to go for that. I think if they don't get that, it's actually kind of just game over for them. Because their matchup against Trick Room is so bad. So, props to them for recognizing that was, like, their only way to actually deny Trick Room. And that's playing to your win conditions, right? The odds aren't great, but it's what? 30% chance to flinch. You miss 10% of the time, so you basically have a 27% chance to flinch Mimikyu there. It's better than 0% chance, right? If Trick Room goes up here, what does my opponent even do? There's really not much. Now the question is, what do we do? This is so bad. Yeah, oh man. I mean, I could have blitzed into Venu here. I'm going to switch out. Maybe we could just sacrifice both Pokemon in this position. I'm hoping they max Venu here and then like target Amoonguss with G-Max Vine Lash. Oh, they actually go for Sleep Powder. Okay, that works for me. And then Precipice Blades? Okay. I could have Parting Shotted there. Flare Blitz into Venusaur maybe would have been a little bit nicer. Wait, I did Parting Shot. What am I saying? Okay. Okay, this is still definitely doable now. This is definitely still doable because I can bring Mimikyu out now. I think I bring Mimikyu out and I switch Mimikyu back out into Incineroar as you Sleep Powder into that slot and Spore into Groudon. The only thing is now I'm playing around this Venusaur. Maybe Flare Blitz was better there, actually. If we Flare Blitz, we just get that KO, then I get a free switch. Actually, Flare Blitz was really winning there, based off my opponent's play. Okay, you're already at -2. Spore into Groudon, very safe. I think I should switch an instant here, because I could also see them attacking with Venusaur and Groudon. Just a bummer about the flinch, but this is what happens when you rely very heavily on Trick Room, right? If your opponent can actually... Like, Rock Slide flinch is actually one of the best ways to deny Trick Room against this Mimikyu. Like, the odds aren't great, but it's better than anything else you can do based off this lead. Yeah, they go for Sleep Powder. Okay. Heat Crash. Does that KO? It does not. Okay, that's really good. Alright, I mean, we are fighting so hard right now, but it is still so tough. I'm going to switch out into Mimikyu here for Regenerator, and I'm actually just going to launch Flare Blitz here into Venusaur. I need to KO this Venusaur. Like, that's why it was bad I didn't KO this thing earlier. Like, that Parting Shot into Groudon could have been a Flare Blitz into Venusaur, and that actually would have put us in a really good spot, because then we have Amoonguss out, and then I can just redirect with the Amoonguss. They're going to Earth Power here into Incin. Okay, so the thing is, I can bring Calyrex out now, and you can only Spore or Sleep Powder one of 2 Pokemon. Wait, my Calyrex has Trick Room. What am I doing? I can just Trick Room with that. Yeah. If I could also make the read on who they Sleep Powder, that'd be huge. I honestly think you Sleep Powder Calyrex here. It's last turn of Sunlight. What to do here? If I'm my opponent, what am I doing? I want to just protect Calyrex and Trick Room with Mimikyu here, but the thing is, it might be better to just... Because it's a hard read. I don't know if I need to make a hard read right now. I could also click Trick Room with both Pokemon to... But then if they miss Sleep Powder, I look like a complete fool. Alright, I'm going to Glacial Lance and Trick Room here. Okay, they switch Groudon out, that's fine, kind of to be expected. That's Incineroar coming in, that's also okay for now. Yeah, man, I just like can't help but think if I just KO'd Venusaur with that Flare Blitz, I would have been in such a better spot. They did target Calyrex, so I did have the opportunity to protect there and Trick Room, but I get Trick Room up with Mimikyu, so that's still not the end of the world for us. Only scary thing here is that their Incin's now pressuring with a lot of damage, but Calyrex-Ice kind of demolishes them under Trick Room. The thing is, when do I Dynamax, right? Dynamaxing is so awkward. I don't want to risk it off a one-turn wake-up. But if I get a one-turn wake-up here, I kind of just win, I think. Well, I guess you could Sleep Powder Calyrex again. So this is fun. I'm going to max here because I think I need to do it defensively. Otherwise, I take too much damage from Incineroar. So even if I don't wake up, it's fine. I at least have Calyrex under Trick Room to play with. But, yeah, it's just a shame for that Rock Slide flinch. But like I said, that's what distinguishes a really good player from like a subpar player, right? My opponent's like way to realize that, hey, my only way of having a good matchup after turn 1 is by going for a flinch. Like for them to recognize that, like, is a really, really good, a job well done on their end. So let's see if we can get lucky with sleep turns. Like, I got pretty lucky. I actually do get lucky here. I was gonna say I got very lucky in that game previously. So that's huge, though. I think, like, this instantly puts us back in the game. In fact, we're in a commanding spot here if they didn't Sleep Powder into the Calyrex slot. If they went for Sleep Powder into Calyrex again, like, really, really good play. And I actually think it's, like, here, Parting Shot and Sleep Powder into Calyrex is a pretty solid play that they could have made. But if they didn't and targeted Mimikyu, it's time for the Calyrex train to just roll through. Ooh, they go for Sludge Bomb. Okay, even better for us, because now if you KO me... But never mind, that does not come close to KOing. I was going to say, if you KO me, you just give me a free switch in and I can just start sporing everything. But this is fine, I think. The only thing is that Groudon can come back out, but Calyrex is so bulky, right? And Rotom is their last one. Okay. That's okay with me. I think I'm just going to Hailstorm into... Play Rough into this and Hailstorm. They don't have a safe switching into Hailstorm. You can Will-O-Wisp my Calyrex, but they also have Sleep Powder, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb. There's no way you have Protect on this thing. So it should be a guaranteed KO onto Venusaur. The thing is that I think Rotom just Sleep Powders here into Calyrex, which is, you know, a little bit scary, but it's okay. I'm just going to play Rough and Hailstorm here. Wait, actually, never mind. There's merit into switching out here into Amoonguss, because by switching into Amoonguss, I can Spore Groudon next turn. So I think that's the better play. So we're definitely lucky with that Wake Up. If we don't Wake Up there, it's looking really tough, but I'll take that as justice for the Rock Slide flinch. Okay. Yeah, we get Hailstorm off. I don't think Hailstorm kills Rotom there, right? Even if it does, we like, you don't want to have any... I'd rather deal with Burn, because at least with Burn, like, you know, I can still attack. Whereas with Sleep Powder, like, you know, if we take a 3-turn sleep, it's just game over instantly. So I don't want that Venusaur to get a Sleep Powder off. So we get another Chilling Neigh boost. Oh, okay, that's fine with me. They go for a Trick rather than oh, so you're Scarf, aren't you? Yeah. Them having Sash here is actually really funny. That's Scarf actually, maybe. Oh man, that's painful because if I just play Rough there, or sorry, well, I'm glad I didn't Swords Dance, I guess. But play Rough would have put us in a pretty good spot, right? How many turns of Trick Room are left? Also, does my Amoonguss outspeed you now? Oh, I forgot Groudon's still asleep. Wait, that's really good. Okay, let's just Spore into Rotom. How many turns of sleep did Groudon take? 2? It is only it's my last one of Dynamax here. We still have 2 turns of Trick Room left though, which is good. Wait, because it's my last one of Dynamax, I think we can actually go into, well, go into Mimikyu here. Hailstorm into Groudon. Felt like we had the game won if we stayed in and play Rough last turn, but I think the switch is fine, because I think it's reasonable to expect the Rotom to Will-O-Wisp there, right? And if you Will-O-Wisp me, and then I have Mimikyu out on the field as Groudon comes out, Mimikyu is completely useless, so it's better to vie for a little bit of better positioning. So, right now, are you gonna have Scarf Will-O-Wisp as well? With Trick, Blizzard, Thunderbolt / Volt Switch, or maybe that's just the moveset. They max Rotom, okay. Ooh, this is really interesting. Although that's fine, right? Unless the Rotom now outspeeds Amoonguss, because Amoonguss is Scarf, but I wouldn't expect that. They do Wake Up though, okay. So they get the Protect off, but that's fine because, like, we still have Trick Room up, right? We have one more turn of Trick Room to work with. So we got very lucky, like Calyrex managed to Wake Up right when we Dynamaxed it. I did it defensively because I was like, if I don't, Instinct could actually attack us right now. But this is, I think, a good example of why you don't tilt, right? You try not to tilt. Like, that Rock Slide flinch turn one was very frustrating, obviously, but the game's still far from over in a position like that, so you want to find opportunities to win. They just go Lightning into Calyrex for negative damage, basically. Wait, that did so little. We don't even have any boosts. Oh, gosh. Wow. I'm really just curious about the Rotom's function on that team. Like, that's my main question here. Yeah, and I mean, it'd be so sick to go for the double Trick Room play here, but I don't actually think there's a reason to go for something like that right now. I think actually what we do is just Swords Dance with this thing and go for Glacial Lance. Rotom's not winning against Calyrex. I mean, even if you max Lightning here, we'll survive another one, then I can protect Calyrex. They go for Protect, which is the correct play on Groudon. But Glacial Lance here is going to pick up the KO. Does so much onto Rotom as well. Swords Dance maybe is greedy, but the thing is, if like Mimikyu actually stays on the field for... Like, if once your Dynamax is over, Shadow Sneak just KOs the Rotom at this point, right? So, yeah. No need to risk a play rough, although it might have been better just to go for consistent damage with Shadow Sneak, because Rotom Frost is definitely not going to be defensive against us here, but they're just going to offer Hailstorm onto Mimikyu, which is fine, because now Rage Powder plus Glacial Lance just wins the game. So, yeah. I think if you're ever Dynamaxing a Scarf Rotom, now, obviously they didn't end up having Scarf, it's not great. And Double Trick Room actually wouldn't have worked there, because their Rotom would have just KO'd our Mimikyu, so, yeah. Okay, they're not grounded. We could Spore, but we actually lose to a crit, so the best play is always to Rage Powder and Glacial Lance, because we just got an attack boost and Glacial Lance a single target, so yeah, you go for that every time. The one way we could throw this game is if we didn't go for Rage Powder, they crit Max Lightning into Glastrier, and then Rotom wins the 1v1 against the Amoonguss. So you can see they went for Max Lightning because they realized, hey, the only way I can win this game is if my opponent throws. So it's important to like still find those opportunities though, right? Because if you, let's say you just go for Max Hailstorm onto Amoonguss there, what does that even accomplish, right? Yeah, you knock out Amoonguss, but then you just lose anyway to Glastrier. So you have to hope for a misplay from your opponent, and in Pokemon, very few times do people play perfectly the entire game, right? You see me make mistakes all the time, and even at a high level, like, because Pokemon is there's just so much that goes into it, it's very easy to outplay yourself in this game as well. And so sometimes you can still win games off capitalizing off mistakes from your opponents. And so I think in this game, my opponent did a really good job identifying like plays that could at least keep them in the game, right? The Rock Slide on turn 1, that Max Lightning there in the end. Those are small things that may seem not like a very big deal, but they actually are in the grand scheme of things, because like the ability to identify plays like that are often what distinguish a high-level player from someone that might be a little bit below them. So, yeah. Either way, it was a really fun set of games. I wish that Lapras game did not disconnect. Really would have liked to see how that played out, because I think my opponent did build up a good enough early lead, but we also got Calyrex, I keep mixing those, into a really, really good position, so it would have been fun to see how that would have played out. I think they were actually still in a pretty good position, especially if they actually had Parasong on that Lapras as well as the Light Clay, because then question is whether or not my Calyrex can do enough damage. They probably have Urshifu in the back as their last one in that game too, so then they can go for Wicked Blow, which obviously does a lot onto my end as well. So it definitely would have been close, but the thing is, I think like Calyrex should definitely pick up the KO onto Zacian that turn, unless Zacian switches out. But then if Whimsicott comes in, you're still taking a +2 Max Quake. I can then afterwards, then yeah, we're not in bad shape. The main thing is to deny a Parasol in that position, because the thing is, I think in that game, my opponent could have switched Zacian out of Whimsicott, you Geyser to KO the Mimikyu, and the question is whether or not Geyser KOs in rain when we have a special defense boost. I actually don't think it does. So if it doesn't, then the thing is, I think we're in really good shape, because I can keep spamming Max Quake, and then Mimikyu can play rough into Whimsicott as well. So I'm just theorying the game out, because I feel like my opponent had a slightly better early game than I did, but I was also content with the position that I was in. So yeah, would have liked to see how that played out, but yeah, DCs happen unfortunately sometimes. Either way, that is going to be it for this one. This was kind of a long episode, but it was really fun. And like I said, Mimikyu plus Calyrex-Ice, really, really good duo right now, so it's definitely something you should be considering. So thanks again to DragonairJordan for the team. Thank you to you all, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time. Once again, also, thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check out intotheam.com/cybervgc for 10% off your next order on that site, and you can find my favorite products from them down in the description below. I'll catch you all next time. All right, peace.